You are watching Ice-T in History with Kyle Donnelly. This series is called Extreme Royal History, the Regnan Edition. William the Conqueror.
William was born and raised in the city of Falaise, Normandy, in modern-day France. Born November 8, 1028, to his mother, Herleva, a mistress and concubine of Duke Robert, I of Normandy. William's parents being unmarried made him illegitimate, and normally illegitimate sons are not eligible to inherit their father's title. His enemies called him William the Bastard. However, upon his father's death in 1035, when he was only 8 or 9 years old, his family recognized him as the heir to the Norman dukedom. He was very young, but he was courageous and determined to prove himself. His uncle, Archbishop Robert of Rouen, ruled his duchy for him until he came of age. At 15, William was knighted by Henry I, King of France, who, at the time, was technically his overlord as Normandy was considered a vassal of the French king. He faced rebellions and assassination attempts in Normandy, but he survived and grew stronger. By his 20s, William had established himself as a powerful and respected ruler of his lands. He took Matilda of Flanders as his wife. Warning: there is domestic abuse in the beginning of their marriage. In context, though unacceptable and illegal now, wife beating was considered normal until the late 19th century, when it was outlawed in the UK and Europe. And the US didn't outlaw wife beating until 1920. Once William was in his 20s, he was ready for a strategic marriage alliance. William sent word to the Count of Flanders that he wished to marry the Count's daughter, Matilda. She originally denied his proposal, citing that she couldn't marry a bastard. Respecting her decision, her father sent her response back to the Duke. William was so offended by her response that he rode to her castle and physically assaulted her and basically forced her to marry him. It is said he dragged her through the dirt by her hair and used his fists, elbows, and spurs to beat her. She was so injured that she had to take to her bed for a few days. During her recovery, she stated that she wished to marry William despite his violence towards her. She asserted that he must be a brave man to attack her in her own father's castle. She, too, was looking for a strong partner. His rough wooing landed him a successful marriage that would prove to be a strong union. William and Matilda wed in 1051 and were together until her death in 1083, having 10 children in all. Duke William was an ally of King Edward the Confessor of England. William asserted that Edward had promised him the crown since the Confessor had no heirs and certainly wasn't getting any since he had sent his wife to a nunnery. In 1054, Harold Godwinson, Earl of Wessex and the most powerful noble in England, promised William during a visit to the continent that he would uphold Edward's promise and swear fealty to William upon Edward's death. This did not come to pass. On January 5, 1066, Edward, the Confessor, died. Harold Godwinson was by the king's side in England when he died. Seeing an opportunity to grasp at more power, Harold seized the crown for himself. He had an immediate coronation in an attempt to solidify his claim to the throne. Unfortunately for him, there were Norwegian Vikings invading the north with their king, Harald Hardrada. There were 2 Harolds and 1 William fighting for the English crown. Harold Godwinson, now Harold the King, took his army to put down the Viking rebellion up north in the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Soon after Harold took the crown for himself, William and the Normans looked to the sky in April of 1066 to see Halley's Comet, which they took as a good omen. This, combined with Harold Godwinson being preoccupied up north, made for a perfect opportunity for Duke William to gather an army to sail across the English Channel and invade. William was so sure of his claim that he received a papal dispensation from Pope Alexander II that granted him permission to invade England. He also received troops and help from other monarchs on the continent. After preparing his forces for months, he sailed across the English Channel and landed in Pevensey on September 28, 1066. William quickly erected a castle at Pevensey, and one close by in Hastings to use as fortifications against the Anglo-Saxons. Back in northern England, Harold Godwinson was victorious in the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Upon hearing that William and his forces had crossed the Channel and landed, Harold marched a large part of his army south at full speed ahead. They marched over 250 miles in only 9 days. On October 14, 1066, the 2 armies met at the Battle of Hastings. This event is depicted on the Bayeux Tapestry, which is an embroidered account of the conquest of England and still exists today at the Bayeux Museum. The tapestry itself is upwards of 70 meters long and 50 centimeters tall. At the start of the battle, Harold expected to surprise William and his forces by attacking in the morning, but the Normans were prepared. The two armies were similar in size, sources stating both sides had around 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers. The advantage was with Harold at the beginning. He and the Anglo-Saxons took the high ground, making a wall out of their shields and using large axes to hold their positions. The Normans had the low ground, but they brought cavalry and archers with them. We can see in the Bayeux Tapestry that the Normans began releasing volleys of arrows and charging the Saxon wall of shields with their knights on horseback. The wall held up for a while. The battle was brutal. It is said that William lost no less than 3 horses from under him that day, but he never gave up. In a valiant attempt to take the advantage over the Anglo-Saxons, William and his forces pretended to retreat, and then attacked Harold's men from the side. This surprise maneuver by the cavalry, accompanied by the inescapable arrows from the Norman archers, made the Anglo-Saxons begin to crumble. In the chaos, Harold was shot in the face with an arrow and killed. After a fierce fight, William emerged victorious. The surviving Anglo-Saxons fled the battlefield for their safety as the Normans rode on to Westminster and London. Winning the Battle of Hastings was just the beginning. William still had to secure his new throne. William marched his army to London, burning and pillaging towns along the way to show his strength. The English leaders, realizing they couldn't resist, finally surrendered. On Christmas Day, 1066, William was crowned King of England and his wife Matilda was crowned Queen of England, setting the precedent for all future monarchs of England that the wife of the king automatically becomes the queen. This was not a set-in-stone rule for earlier Anglo-Saxon rulers, who feared a dominating queen might overpower weaker kings, leading to dissent, opting to call them the wife of the king, lady, or domina, until the king promoted his wife to be his queen. This makes Matilda of Flanders, for our intents and purposes, the first of a long list of future English consorts. William's vindictive and sadistic nature was noted even at his coronation. It is said that he ordered his men to cut off the hands and feet of those who jeered and booed the king and queen during their procession to Westminster Abbey. During the coronation ceremony, the shouts of acclamation from the nobles inside the church caused confusion to the villagers outside, who thought there may have been an assassination attempt on the king. Thinking that, the villagers began to light homes and businesses on fire and riot. The ceremony continued, although the abbey was filled with smoke. Once crowned, William sought to solidify his power over the land and put an end to any riots and rebellions. He was going to make peace through war, whether the people of his new domain liked it or not. Despite the conqueror's attempts to keep the peace, rebellions continued for years after William became king. William responded ruthlessly to all opposition and would not stop until the English finally submitted to his rule. When the north of England rose up against him, he launched the Harrying of the North. He led his men to destroy villages, crops, and livestock in order to crush resistance. King William I gets a lot of credit for being a strong warrior and king, but he must also get credit for the despicable atrocities he committed against the English people. Burning down farmland led to food shortages. Some towns, in their desperation, resorted to cannibalism, and many died of starvation because of the destruction of their farms, crops, and property by the Norman conquerors. William sought to secure his reign and ensure that his sons would succeed him. He did this by quickly setting out to build over 80 castles, some sources say hundreds, in strategic cities and counties in England. To run the new fortifications, William would appoint loyal Normans as tenants and chiefs over the new castles. This led to a Norman aristocracy and an English peasantry. This intermingling of Norman culture with English culture changed the English language by adding many French words into the English vernacular. English words for animals in the fields like cow and pig on the dinner table were swapped to French words like beef, veal, and pork. Other words like government, council, and mayor were also brought to us by the Norman conquerors. The key to William's success were his castles. The type of castles William built are called motte and bailey castles. The motte is the big mound or hill that the castle keep sits on. The bailey is the big field or plot of land that is adjacent to the motte. Around most motte and bailey castles you will find a moat. No, I was not mispronouncing moat just for fun. A motte is one thing and a moat is another. The moats of castles were filled with water in those times, and it was used to keep enemies out and dispose of sewage. We can still see the motte and bailey castles first established by the conqueror in England today. Some good examples of motte and bailey castles are Windsor Castle, the Tower of London, Dover Castle, Colchester Castle, and Durham Castle. William's castles were symbols of his royal authority. These colossal buildings were likely bigger than any man-made structure than most of the citizens had ever seen. They would have been a very imposing spectacle to the English peasantry. The people would soon submit to their new sovereign. The king was able to use his power over the clergy to assert his royal authority over the populace. In a time where many people went to mass at least once per week, if not more, the clergy were an essential tool in ensuring the stability and administration of each shire. Pope Alexander II supported William's pursuit for the throne, and he was committed to the church in return. William and Matilda erected many abbeys and monasteries for the church. William appointed a longtime monk and scholar named Lanfranc as Archbishop of Canterbury, and allowed him to assist Queen Matilda in the running of the kingdom when he was away. Lanfranc was appointed in 1070 and was an essential player for the duration of William's reign. With William and Lanfranc working together, the See of Canterbury surpassed that of York, giving Lanfranc the ability to excommunicate traitors disloyal to William. There were years of peace due to William's strength. In 1085, William ordered the creation of the Domesday Book, a massive survey of his new kingdom. He had his bishops go to every inch of England, documenting exactly who owned what: land, livestock, mills, even fish ponds. The result was the Domesday Book, completed with remarkable speed in 1086. Considering the royal commissioners didn't have cars or computers to assist them, it is impressive that they were able to collect all the information for this record in only 1 year. The Domesday Book is like a medieval census and tax record rolled into one. The book helped King William tax his subjects more effectively and resolve disputes over land ownership. The Domesday Book is still famous today. It can be seen on display in various English museums, loaned out by the National Archives. Historians call it the most remarkable statistical document in the history of Europe. It gives us an incredible snapshot of life in 11th century England, and it shows just how determined William was to control and organize his new kingdom. By the end of his reign, William had the reputation of being a ruthless and effective ruler. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle in 1087 described William by writing, "He was a very stern man, so that no one dared do anything contrary to his will. Amongst other things, the good security he made in the country is not to be forgotten." By establishing castles and creating his comprehensive Domesday Book, William set the stage for his sons to succeed him. Upon William the Conqueror's death, his eldest son Robert would become the Duke of Normandy. His middle son William, nicknamed William Rufus for his red hair, would become King of England. And his youngest son Henry would famously receive no land from his father. Instead, Henry was given 5,000 pounds of silver, later becoming King of England himself after his brother's untimely death. We will dive deeper into their stories in the upcoming videos. William was buried in one of the abbeys he established called St. Stephen at Caen in what is today France. His resting place was desecrated by French Huguenots in 1562 and then again by French revolutionaries in 1793. The original burial place of William I is now marked by a simple stone slab. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more history content. In the coming videos, we are going to continue our series called Extreme Royal History, the Regnant Edition. This series will include a video on each of the kings and queens of England from 1066 to the present, who ruled England and later Great Britain and the United Kingdom as a sovereign in their own right, not by marriage. Someone who is king, queen, or prince by marriage is known as a consort. A consort shares their spouse's royal dignity and rank, but they do not share the regnant's authority. Their authority is completely determined by the regnant. We will also hear the word regent in the coming videos. A regent is someone who rules the country while the sovereign is away, indisposed, or too young to rule on their own. Some consorts throughout history have been tasked with the regency. Some consorts had very little sway over their husbands, and others dominated the court. If you are interested in learning more about Queen's Consort and later in history Prince's Consort, then please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss when we come out with our second series called Extreme Royal History, the Consort Edition. Check out the links below to see my sources. I have also listed the channels below that have inspired me to start my own YouTube channel. I am not an expert and am always excited to learn more about history. With this channel, I aim to bring more history content to people like me who love to binge watch history videos on YouTube. If you are like me and are enchanted by grand stories of the kings and queens of old, then you will love this channel. Like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon.